So yesterday was the official funeral and burial for Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas who was assassinated a few days ago. This was held in Qatar, where he had been living since he was banned from returning to Palestine. There were thousands of people attending, everyone wearing Palestinian flags and the kufiyyah. A lot of important figures attended, including political leaders. Here's his wife giving her official goodbye to him. Now, what I want to point out and what I would like for people to think about when seeing this footage is the fact that this is a Palestinian man not being buried in Palestine, but being buried in Qatar. His family's Palestinian. He was born and raised in Palestine, in Gaza, and yet he's being buried 1,300 miles away in Qatar. I'm pointing this out because this is the reality for majority of Palestinians in the world. This is how the occupation and the colonization of Palestine affects us. It affects us from the time we're born, it affects us while we're alive on this earth, and even when we die and where we're buried. Like my dad, for example, my grandfather, my grandmother, all born and raised in Palestine, all died and were buried outside of Palestine, away from our village. My grandparents are buried in Amman in Jordan because that's where they were living when they passed away. And if you don't know, Amman is extremely close to Palestine. It's like max a 50-minute drive to the border of Palestine. From where my grandparents were living to our village, it would have taken maybe like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive with no checkpoints or customs. But because of the violent Israeli occupation, my grandparents weren't even able to take that 1.5-hour drive to our village to live and die there. And this is the case for more than 50% of the Palestinians in the world right now. The total population of Palestinians worldwide is at around 14 million. 7 million live in Palestine, whether in the West Bank, in Gaza, in East Jerusalem, or in the 48 lands, or Israel. These are Palestinians who have some sort of ID that ties them to their respective area that Israel recognizes and allows them to live there and inevitably die and be buried there. Now, the other 7 million of us live outside of Palestine. We are the Palestinians who have no ID because Israel does not recognize us. Therefore, we are denied the right to return to our land, return to our villages, banned from living there and eventually dying there. So even though the 7 million of us, we're all Palestinian, when we die, we are buried outside of Palestine. Some of us are privileged and have strong passports like the US, Canadian, and are able to visit Palestine, but purely as a tourist. You can only ever visit under a tourist visa. We can't live there, but we can visit if they haven't blacklisted you for speaking out. But most of the 7 million do not have strong passports, like my grandparents, so they were banned from returning to Palestine. I think a lot of people obviously know that there are Palestinians out there who are not allowed to go back, but don't really know the details in how it actually influences our day-to-day life, which is why I wanted to point this out, because this is just the reality for us. Like for me, unless Palestine is freed within my lifetime, inshallah it is, but if not, I'm probably going to die and be buried here in the US with no option to go back to my family's village and be buried there, alongside all my ancestors from before my grandfather who are buried there. I can list more than 8 generations back of my ancestors, my great-grandfathers who are buried in our village right now. My grandfather's house, my great-grandfather's house, all their houses are still there, and yet I'm stuck here unable to return because Israel says so. But alhamdulillah, we stay grateful and trust in Allah's plan. May we see a free Palestine within our lifetime. May we all return and pray in a free Al-Aqsa. And may Allah have mercy on and accept all of our martyrs who died for us to have the right to pray in a free Al-Aqsa.